Hello, and welcome to Creator Weekly Live for July 28th, 2024. I'm Peggy Kay, and this week there are updates for YouTubers and other video creators, website owners, and more. So let's get started. First of all, welcome. If you are here live, please say hello in the chat and let me know what you think about this week's updates. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been really enjoying watching the Olympics. Did you guys watch the opening ceremony? What did you think of that? I thought it was pretty cool. And I thought one of the things that was really interesting is how, with the spectacle kind of distributed in various locations, the opening ceremony was really designed to be watched on a screen, because even if you were there in person, there's no way you could actually see all of the dancers and music and everything. So that feels like a shift, and I'm really interested in seeing what Los Angeles does in 2028. And of course, the other thing is that this was a really big week in US politics. I feel like I was much more online than usual this week, and I'm really hoping nothing else super interesting happens today so we can just get on with things. So let's get started with a couple of small updates from YouTube. And this week, one thing that I really thought was neat is an update that makes it easier to save music from shorts so you can create your own short. This was announced on the Creator Insider channel, and I recommend you see that video if you want more details. But the idea is that when you're watching a short, in the shorts feed, you can click a little button that says save the music. This is not available on all shorts, but for shorts where it's available. Previously, it would only save in a sounds from shorts playlist. Now you can pick which playlist it saves in, and the idea is then when you go to the shorts video editor and you add music, there's a save tab, and you can use that saved music for making your own shorts. So that's kind of a neat update if you create shorts. The other update from YouTube this week is this is for people with larger channels who have partnered, and it's an extension you can install in Chrome for YouTube shopping. This lets you save items while you're browsing the website. You can see what percentage affiliate income you can earn from that. This is only if you have YouTube affiliate shopping enabled on your channel. So you have to be in the YouTube Partner Program and have at least 10,000 subscribers. So again, that's not for everybody, but it's a really useful tool if you do it. So I want to say hi to Jolyn and Craig in the chat. It's good to see you guys here. Craig says, I didn't watch the Olympics live. I'll try to catch it on YouTube. Yeah. One of the things about the Olympics, though, is that it's very heavily controlled how everything can be shown, even for the networks that are officially broadcasting. So I looked, and there's not really much of anything on the official Olympics channel. If you're in the US, check the NBC channel. It has at least some clips. They're the official broadcaster in the US. My understanding is that the Olympics team is very proactive in getting unauthorized content taken down. So you may actually need to go to Peacock if you're in the US and watch it there. Some of it may require a subscription. I think NBC also has a live streaming app where you can watch some of the content. So it's interesting compared to watching the Olympics, 20 years ago, where you were just limited to the network broadcast, not a lot of live events, but you could watch it on your TV. Everyone had regular over-the-air TV. And hello to Andrew, who also just joined the live chat. Good to see you here. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this week's updates. So the next thing I wanted to talk about really briefly is an update for Google Drive that lets you automatically caption your videos uploaded to Google Drive. So previously, if you had a video in Google Drive, you could upload captions for it, but there was no automatic captioning feature. It's really kind of interesting, YouTube is Google, Google Drive is Google, but there isn't feature parity in terms of what you can do with the videos. So what you can do, and let me just take 1 second to call up my video. I'm going to share this tab instead. All right. So this is a video I have in Google Drive, and it's me talking. So there's obviously audio about that. And if you just click the menu and select Manage Caption Tracks, it opens the captioning. Oh, and how interesting, it's in a new tab, so it's not showing on screen. I will share this tab instead. So it opens a version where you will see the option to add automatic captions. And once you do that, you will see that there's an auto-generated English caption, and you can look at the menu and you can choose to either turn them on or off, download the captions, or delete the captions. The captions are in the VTT file format. What the VTT file format is, it's sort of a more advanced caption format. I'm not an expert in this, but I think it allows you to actually say you want certain words bold and italic, so it's not just plain text. And you can use that file to upload the captions to YouTube, wherever. There's also converters you can use to change the VTT caption file to plain text. So you can use that for anything, for making a post or doing analysis, extracting the text. So that's a really useful feature that's new to Google Drive. And I want to just take a second here and make a plug for my newsletter. This is at peggyktc.beehiiv.com. It's on screen. You can get all the week's tips and updates in your email inbox every Saturday. And for things like this new feature in Drive, I have quick step-by-step instructions how you can do that. So subscribe. There's a link in the video description. And that lets me kind of segue over to the next update I wanted to mention very briefly from Beehiiv that lets you create an app. Now, this sounds like it's something complicated. It's actually kind of a neat feature. If you have a newsletter on Beehiiv, including a free account, like what I'm using, you can turn on a setting that says, let an app be created. This is a progressive web app that's available for mobile devices. And what happens is if someone opens your newsletter in the mobile browser and they sign in with the email used to subscribe to the newsletter, or they subscribe, you'll see a prompt that says you want this app. It then lets you put an icon on your home screen and you'll get notifications if there's a new edition being published. I am not sure I would actually find this that useful. I'm happy checking updates in my email, but if you like mobile push notifications for new information, you might check this out. I have it enabled for my newsletter, so you can go to the newsletter, sign in with the email that you're used to subscribe to the newsletter, and again, you'll see a prompt. This works on both Android and iOS devices. So that's kind of an interesting update. And I just wanted to mention that this is a different tack that Beehiiv is taking compared to things like Substack. Substack wants you to build your audience on their site. So they want people to sign into Substack and see all their different feeds, and they have sort of social feeds. This lets you create a sort of app for your newsletter that's only yours. You keep your audience, and it's not complicated to use. People can configure notifications. If there are comments enabled on the posts, people can comment, although I don't have them enabled on my posts. If you want to comment, you can do it here in the YouTube video or on my blog, which is totally separate from this. Again, links in the description. And I want to thank you guys for subscribing to my newsletter. Andrew says Peggy's newsletter is mandatory for tech nerds like me. I'm glad you think that, because I basically write it what I would be interested in reading, and I'm a tech nerd. So I found my audience. Craig also says he's subscribed. Thank you so much. So moving on, there's a few other brief updates for video creators that I wanted to mention. And I will take 1 second to call those up. First of all, Twitch. Some of you may watch streams or stream on Twitch. They updated their sexual harassment policy, where they have a better, clearer definition of what they mean by sexual harassment. They have also updated their auto mod for moderation of live chat with a sexual harassment option. Basically, what the auto mod does is hold live comments for review if they might violate particular policies for harassment and so forth. And then once they're reviewed, the moderator can choose to either show that in the public chat or not. So hopefully this makes it clearer for people who are unsure of what sexual harassment might mean. Again, it's up to the live streamers to decide whether they show potentially harassing comments or not. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick, a couple things. So on TikTok, some of you may use TikTok. If you do, they now have Eventbrite integration. So this allows you to create events on Eventbrite, and then you link that to your TikTok account, and you can promote the event on your videos on TikTok. This seems like a great way to promote live events. And I'm pretty sure this is only available if you have a live event happening within the next 90 days. So you cannot use this to promote virtual events. But this seems like a nice update for that. And then the other update for TikTok, this was noticed by Lindsay Gamble, who writes about social media, mostly for marketers. And he noticed that if you're on TikTok, you may be able to upload an image from your device as a cover image. And this is, like a thumbnail. I think this is interesting in terms of how this compares to YouTube. YouTube only lets you select a frame of your short as the cover image. They said last week that they would be adding new options to add effects and add text. So that's a little bit more customized, but there's no option to upload a custom thumbnail, which I know a lot of people want. Eileen says, one thing I don't miss about streaming on Twitch is the comment moderation. It seems it's a whole job. So I can't imagine live streaming on Twitch regularly without having someone to help moderate the comments. I love that you guys are in the comments here and not weird or obnoxious or anything like that. So the last thing I wanted to mention in terms of video creation is that there is a post on the Instagram blog. Again, you can get the links from my weekly newsletter, all about Instagram Live. If you go live on Instagram or you are interested in going live on Instagram, I recommend you check this out because it highlights all the latest features like collaborative live streaming that are available on Instagram. So let me shift gears here to one of the big stories from this week. And it may sound a little dry, but I think it's important to know that Google has made a big policy change. So previously, they were going to completely kill third-party cookies for Chrome. And the news is that they're not going to do that, at least not now. And I wanted to give a little background about that. So basically, third-party cookies, these are like little trackers. When you go to a website, you can have first-party cookies that are placed by that website, or you can have third-party cookies active that are from a different website. And these can be used to track what you do across the web. They can also be used for practical purposes. For example, if you're on a blog and you're on the blog's site and you want to comment using your Google account, well, the cookies there let you stay signed into your Google account so you don't need to do that again. So third-party cookies can be good, also can be bad because they track you everywhere. And I'll note that Firefox and Safari block third-party cookies by default. So it seemed kind of like definitely a thing that Chrome would do, but Google's business is advertising. This is where their revenue comes from. And the problem is that using third-party cookies for tracking allows the advertisers to show personalized ads. And this makes a big difference in revenue. The other thing Google actually shared this week, let me find it here. The other thing Google shared this week is that they did experiments using the third-party cookies or not. Let me switch to that screen. So what you're seeing here is the experiment that Google ran, where they had control, the normal thing right now, where there's third-party cookies, and then there's other signals they use for personalization. They ran it without third-party cookies, and they ran it with the Privacy Sandbox instead. Now, the Privacy Sandbox is something that Google started working on, or at least announced in 2019. And the whole idea of the Privacy Sandbox is that it allows some personalization of ads while also maintaining privacy. So I think it aggregates information. There's a lot of technical information about how it works, but the important thing is that they wanted advertisers to shift to the Privacy Sandbox instead of using third-party cookies for personalization. And the idea is then they could turn off third-party cookies in Chrome, which is what they're not doing. Now, just to show you from Google's own data what happens, this is sort of a confusing graph, but it shows how much revenue they're getting if you use Google Ad Manager or if you use AdSense to monetize your website. This is from a whole bunch of data from Google's own testing that they published this week. The idea is that they would compare what happens, Privacy Sandbox, third-party cookies or nothing. So what they found is that if they just use non-personalized signals, pretty much, revenue drops a lot for publishers. So for AdSense, it goes from 100% revenue down to 78% revenue. That's 22% drop in revenue, which is not great for publishers, and it's not great for Google because Google gets a cut of that revenue. And then they found, so that's the dark blue on the graph. The sort of medium blue cover is if they add the Privacy Sandbox for customization, and you can see that actually improves revenue a little bit. It does not go back to 100%. So I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways from this. The first is that this trend towards privacy is probably going to hurt advertising revenue overall, and that's not great for Google, and it's not great if you're monetizing your website with AdSense or any other ads that require personalization to be optimized. So what this means for the future of advertising, I'm not entirely sure. It's something to keep in mind. And I think this probably shows why Google has decided not to kill third-party cookies entirely. They say they are still working on the Privacy Sandbox, and they know it's taking a while to implement it, but instead of just killing third-party cookies, which is what they were going to do this year, they are proposing that they just have better cookie controls so that users can decide which sites they want to see cookies on and so forth. So we'll see what happens. They actually need to have this approved by regulators who don't actually like how much information Google and other advertising companies take in from people. And I think that it's still a trend that third-party cookies will go away. That's my personal guess. They're already gone by default on Firefox and Safari. I think Chrome will move that way, but maybe just a little bit more slowly. And that also means that if you have your own website, you need to make sure that any widgets or add-ons or things like that don't require third-party cookies. I think these are being updated slowly, but not everyone has done that. I've definitely seen issues with people commenting, for example, on blogger blogs that they're using Safari because they want to comment with their Google account and there's no cookie that lets them stay signed in. So they end up having to sign in again. It's not a great user experience. I don't know what the alternative to that is. Andrew says, if enough people want it, it will eventually happen since customer happiness will always lead to more profits. At least in theory, that's true. I think in terms of privacy, though, there are barriers for customers. I'm not sure how you define the customer here. I think the customer is actually the advertisers, and they love third-party cookies, so I'm not sure that helps. But in terms of users, I think a lot of people just use whatever is default and don't really think about the privacy issues, because a lot of that is hidden. So you kind of have an idea that you're being tracked across the internet. And it's not just advertisers, it's also companies like Meta for Facebook. And yeah, we'll see. I think the move is towards privacy, if not from users, then from government regulations. So I think Google and everybody else will eventually have to get on board. But for right now, third-party cookies are not going to be disabled by default on Chrome. I think advertisers are happy about that. And you can always turn off third-party cookies. And they said that there will be better controls for that for users. There'll be more information when that actually happens. Andrew says, if you don't want to be tracked, stay off the net. Here's the problem, though. You say you don't want to be tracked, but a lot of things now have shifted entirely to the internet. You don't have a choice. And there have been some serious privacy issues where things like healthcare sites, so, where you sign in to talk to your doctor, or tax preparation sites, have these bits of code that send information to third parties. Sometimes it's that the website developer probably didn't really think about that happening. So for example, if you have a share to Facebook icon, that's actually tracking people. And website owners might not know that. But I think there is going to be more regulation before there's less regulation. US has less regulation than Europe, but if all these other countries implement privacy regulations, big companies are probably just going to go with that rather than saying, well, everybody gets privacy except people in the US. Andrew says that he's changed doctors because they require contact through a portal. Yeah. That's something that you may actually not have an option to do, though, depending on what your health insurance is and the doctors in your area. Everything is moving online, and it's hard for people who don't want to actually do all their communication there. So those are the big updates for this week. There are a few more. There's a new update on Gemini, Google's AI. There's an improved version if you're using the free version, and they're going to start showing better showing links to the source information. So hopefully that gives the source of various things that Gemini puts in the output, gives those websites more traffic. The other thing is that ChatGPT announced Search GPT. Again, this is going to be like a search engine where they show you a summary overview using ChatGPT. They're testing it, and you can actually go to their site and say that you're interested to try it out. So those are these. I am tongue-tied today. These updates are the major ones for this week. If you want all of this week's updates and information, be sure to check out the links. They're in the description, or, sign up for my email newsletter. You can get it in your email news box, email inbox, or use the little app on your phone to be notified when there's a new edition. Again, this is the link, peggyktc.beehiiv.com. And if you use Beehiiv's new app, I'd love to hear what you think about it and whether this is actually something useful. I enabled it for my newsletter. It's free. I didn't have to do any coding or anything. They implement it automatically. But I'd love to know if this is actually something useful. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you're watching the Olympics, have a good time. I'm excited about the gymnastics and swimming, and I like watching things like the surfing that are not sports I usually watch, but I think that's actually fun to watch. And I will see you all next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week.